All right, back on the Young Turks. Let's do it. Let's get to those fun Republicans. They're going to explain to us why they voted against the stimulus package, and it is not going to make a lick of sense, so we're going to have fun with it. First, John Boehner. He is leader of the Republicans in the House, and he's going to explain to us why he fought the stimulus bill, and it's going to be precious. Let's watch.
This is the Democrats' 1,100-page stimulus bill, with interest nearly $1 billion a page in spending. A bill that I'll guarantee you not one member of Congress read. And the fact is, I don't think the Democrats wanted people to read it because they might actually find out what's in it. And in the days and weeks and months to come, we'll know how this money will be spent. I just got to say, the president made clear when we started this process that this was about jobs, 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 jobs. And what it's turned into is nothing more than spending, spending, and more spending. American families, small businesses, deserve better from their Congress. I said on the opening day we wouldn't be the party of no, and we haven't been. We offered an alternative that would have created twice as many jobs as their bill at half the price. And I want to thank Eric Cantor and his whip team and his working group who put together our alternative that we believe would have been a better solution for the economic crisis that affects American families and small businesses. And that's why we were so adamantly opposed to this, that we think we have a better idea that really will create jobs and put money back into the hands of the American people.
God, they sound like such outdated losers, if you ask me. But the funniest part was when he said, and we said we wouldn't be the party of no. And we aren't. Except we all just voted no on this stimulus package. Every single Republican in the House. Okay? So that seems to indicate that you are the party of no. All right. And then number two, he said, look, they said this would be about creating jobs, and they turned it into a spending bill. Well, if you spend on hiring people, that's what turns into jobs, isn't it? Now, it's a little more complicated than that, but not much. Sometimes you got to spend money to create jobs. That's what the government does, of course. Oh, God. But my favorite part was that he said, look, I guarantee you not one member of Congress read it, which of course means he definitely didn't read it. But that's absolutely negligent. Do I think that every member of Congress should read every page of that bill? No, of course not. But you're supposed to have a staff that does that, okay? If they spent all their time reading all the bills, they wouldn't have time for other things. I really do believe that. But your staff better have read every single page and know exactly what's in it. In fact, of course, I would be shocked if Congressman Boehner's staff had not read the whole thing. They have, and they couldn't find anything wrong in it. That's why they resorted to saying, well, who can read this whole damn thing? I'm sure if I read it, I'd find something wrong in it, which is a pathetic argument. And then finally he said, our version would have created twice as many jobs at half the price. Flat out lie. Not even close to true. First of all, we have no idea how many jobs their version would have created. And secondly, on the price tag, they wanted to make the tax cuts permanent. It would have cost over the next 10 years $3 trillion, 4 times as much as the Obama plan. So flat out wrong. All right, now we move on to the Senate side where we're going to go to John Cornyn. He's talking to MSNBC here.
Well, let me ask you about the tax relief. I mean, there is some in there, 36%. And, you know, when this proposal first landed on the Hill, a lot of Republicans were pleasantly surprised, frankly, to see that 40% of it was tax relief. So you're voting against it. Are you making the perfect the enemy of the good here?
Well, all tax relief is not the same. And the so-called tax relief in this bill is in the form of refundable tax credits. Those are cash payments, as you know, from, in many cases, people who pay taxes to people who don't pay taxes. It really
replicates. Well, this is supposed to make up for the payroll taxes.
Well, it replicates a failed tax rebate program, which was supposed to be a stimulus package a year ago. You remember when Congress voted on $150 billion of stimulus spending in the form of tax rebates? This is roughly the equivalent of what we have now, and it didn't work then, and I'm under no illusion that it'll work now. So why do it again when we know it didn't work?
Did you vote for the stimulus package back then?
I did, and I am disappointed. We were told by the smartest people on the planet that it would work. We had to do it, and I trusted them. But what I'm learning is that there are a lot of smart people who don't really know what we ought to be doing. But the one thing I know we can do is not repeat our mistakes, and it would be a repeated mistake to provide for this sort of wealth transfer in the form of these refundable tax credits, because it won't work.
You know, John Cornyn and George Bush are an interesting contrast because they're both Republicans from Texas, and Bush stumbles around with those words and he looks like an idiot. You know, he's smearing, right? And Cornyn looks very composed and seems to speak eloquently, might be a stretch, but he speaks like a normal, intelligent human being. But what's interesting is that they're both just as dumb. Because what Cornyn said doesn't make any sense. He said, look, we tried giving tax cuts that Obama is doing right now under Bush, and it didn't work, even though I voted for it. So, Senator Cornyn, that's interesting. So what is your solution? Tax cuts. You see, that doesn't make any sense. It's not logically connected. So he didn't smirk and go like a clown like Bush did. But what he said is just so painfully stupid. He said, oh, we gave these tax credits under Bush, and it was a failure, and I've learned from my mistake, and that's why this bill should have had nothing but tax cuts in it. I literally cannot figure out what he's saying. That is so painfully stupid.